Welcome to the deep dive. If you spend any time online, and I mean, who doesn't these days? You've definitely seen it. That flood of generic, kind of bland digital filler we all started calling AI slop.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Today, though, we're looking at a stack of research that suggests we need to, well, completely change our language around this. We've gone deep into sources tracking the, frankly, stunning acceleration of AI, and the metrics point to a massive shift.
A huge inflection point.
Exactly. Our mission today is to unpack the hard timeline, the specific IQ milestones that show us AI slop isn't really the problem anymore. It's being replaced by something else entirely.
Something much bigger, human slop.
Human slop. Let's get into it.
And this deep dive, it isn't just theory or, vague projections. We have specific measurable data. It's mostly focused on these AI IQ scores. And they chart this incredibly fast path towards super intelligent content generation.
So what's fascinating here is how quickly the standard is changing for you, the person scrolling through your feed. The bar for what's considered quality is just being raised so fast.
Whether you realize it or not.
To really get what's coming, we have to set the baseline. I mean, where did all this slop even come from?
Right, the origin story.
It really starts back in November 2022. OpenAI drops ChatGPT 3.5 on the public. It was groundbreaking, for sure, but the content it made for, say, social media posts was
Rudimentary. It was often repetitive, predictable. It lacked a certain spark.
And that lack of sophistication was actually quantifiable.
It was. Researchers started giving these language models the same standardized IQ tests that are designed for humans. And the key data point of this, even as late as March 2024, the best AIs were only scoring around an 80.
80. And the human average is 100, so they were significantly below average.
Exactly. And when you hear that number, 80, it just clicks. It suddenly makes perfect sense why all that early AI content felt so bland and uninspired.
Because it objectively was less intelligent than the average person writing a post.
It was a tool that just didn't have the necessary context or nuance. That's the real origin of AI slop.
Okay, but I have to ask, using a human IQ test on a machine, that seems like a tricky comparison. Is that really a fair metric, or is it just a convenient proxy for something like content quality?
That's a really critical question. And the consensus in the data we've reviewed is, look, it's not a perfect measure of machine capability, right? AIs don't have emotions or, lived experiences.
Sure.
But it is an excellent proxy for measuring their ability to do things like abstract reasoning, deductive logic, and knowledge synthesis.
Which are the core skills you need to create complex, engaging, non-generic content.
Precisely. In fact, the researcher Maxim Lott, who did a lot of this early testing, he acknowledged that challenge. But by using these standardized tests, the ones that make the AI interpret complex language, solve analogies, navigate logic puzzles, we get a really reliable measure of how smart the final output is going to feel.
So it's a solid indicator of intellectual output, even if it's not a measure of, consciousness.
Exactly. It works for our purposes.
Okay, so let's unpack this acceleration, because the pace is what really changes the whole story. If they were at an IQ of 80 in early 2024, what happened next?
This is where it gets just wild. The sources, especially Lott's research, show this absolutely staggering rate of improvement. Top models have been improving their score at a consistent clip of 2.5 points per month.
2.5 points a month. Every single month for the last year and a half.
Every month. This isn't some slow, gradual evolution. It's exponential growth. And that completely changes the game for digital content.
The compounding pace. I mean, that means we got out of that rudimentary phase much faster than most people think. So if we follow that rate, where did we land first? What was the first big milestone?
The first one was actually hit pretty recently, October of 2025. That was the point where the top AI models reached an IQ of about 130.
130. Okay, that is a massive leap from 80 just 18 months before. What does an IQ of 130 even mean in human terms?
It puts the AI squarely in the highly specialized professional category. For context, the average medical doctor scores somewhere between 120 and 130 on those same tests.
So you're saying the intelligence level jumped from below average to a doctor?
To matching highly trained, specialized professionals, yes.
That is just a fascinating shift in competence. So by late 2025, the tool making your content is operating with the intellectual firepower of a doctor. But, and this is the big question, we all know social media is still full of boring, predictable stuff. So why is that slop still out there if the tools are so good?
That's the crucial disconnect, right? The research is pretty clear on this. The reason the old predictable AI slop is still so prevalent is because the humans directing the projects haven't kept up.
The people writing the prompts.
The ones choosing the topic, setting the direction, their methods haven't evolved. They're essentially asking a world-class neurosurgeon to, write a generic sticky note for the fridge.
The tool has genius-level capability, but the user is still thinking at an IQ of 100.
Exactly. It's no longer the tool's fault. It's a user limitation. The human has become the bottleneck.
Okay, let's look ahead then, because that 2.5 points per month rate, it doesn't just stop there. And this is where the strategy really starts to shift.
Yeah, we're moving past highly specialized very quickly and into, genuine world-class genius territory.
So milestone 2, this is projected for June 2026. If the pace holds, AI IQ is expected to hit 150. What does that number mean?
An IQ of 150 that matches the estimated score of the average Nobel laureate in the sciences.
A Nobel Prize winner.
Think physics, chemistry, medicine. We're talking about content generated by systems that can synthesize complex ideas, spot non-obvious patterns, and generate truly novel insights at a Nobel level.
So the content itself is just going to have a layer of sophistication we really don't see online today.
Not at all.
That's the first big implication. The output gets smarter. But what about the human side of it? What's the really big strategic shift that the research says happens when we cross that 150 IQ mark?
This is probably the most important takeaway for you if you're a creator or you're in business. It raises a really important question. What happens when the intelligence gap between the person giving the orders and the tool doing the work gets that wide? Once the AI surpasses 150 IQ, the human starts to realize that their own creative ideas are now the weakest link in the entire chain.
A human has to step aside.
Precisely. The second major outcome is a strategic shift in our behavior, and it's driven by simple economics. Content creators, influencers, marketers, writers, they will discover they get much better results.
More views, more money.
More views, more engagement, more income, yeah. If they completely assign the job of coming up with the ideas and the strategy to these genius-level AIs.
So the human role changes. You're no longer the conceptual heavy lifter. You become more of a curator or an editor. The final check.
The final human interface. You stop asking the AI to write a blog post about 5 ways to save money.
Right. Instead, you ask something like, given all market trends and my audience data, what is the single most compelling and novel content strategy I should launch next month to maximize my return?
That is the key distinction. When the AI is smarter than a Nobel Prize winner, you stop trusting your own 100 IQ brain to pick the best topic. You defer to the genius.
And the human role becomes execution, refining the tone, making sure it aligns with your brand, injecting that last bit of authenticity.
But the core strategy, the big idea, that comes from the superintelligence system.
That really defines the future of content creation then. Deferral to digital genius. Okay, but if we're accepting this 2.5 points per month growth, I have to push back a little. The next milestone seemed, frankly, staggering. Did the research address the potential for a plateau? Diminishing returns?
And that's a healthy skepticism. The research is very clear that this is a projection. It's based on the sustained current rate. And while, yeah, lots of technologies hit a wall, the source material suggests something different here.
Why?
Because the AI's main intelligence engine is all about synthesizing and connecting a constantly growing amount of data. And that data fire hose is not slowing down. If anything, it's speeding up. So its ability to learn from its own outputs just keeps driving the engine forward.
So a sharp slowdown is unlikely, at least in the near term.
That's the argument, yes.
Okay, so let's assume the rate holds. The progress doesn't stop in mid-2026. What happens just 6 months after that?
Milestone 3. December 2026. The AI's IQ is projected to hit 175.
175.
And for comparison, that's estimated to be higher than Albert Einstein's IQ of 160.
Wow. I mean, the jump is just dizzying. You go from a doctor to a Nobel laureate to surpassing Einstein in, 14 months?
It's an incredible pace.
And if we look 6 months further out, to June 2027, milestone 4.
That's when the AI IQ is projected to hit 190, which is the estimated intelligence of Isaac Newton.
Isaac Newton. We are entering an era of complexity and, I guess, predictive power that is genuinely hard to wrap your head around.
We really are. We move so quickly from the situation today where we're filtering out AI slop to this revolutionary new reality of super intelligent content.
So at that point, the AI's capability is, for all practical purposes, limitless for creating content.
Functionally limitless, yes. The problem is no longer the tool. The much bigger, more urgent competitive problem becomes human slop.
Okay, let's nail down that definition. Human slop in this new world.
Yeah.
Because it sounds way more insidious than the old AI slop.
Human slop is any content created by humans who, for whatever reason, have not yet fully enlisted these super intelligent AIs to come up with, direct, and create their material.
So it's content generated by a mind with an IQ of 100, a perfectly average human.
When content directed by a mind with an IQ of 175 or 190 is easily available, and that higher IQ content is quickly becoming the market standard.
So if I'm on a platform in 2027, and I see content that's just, repeating basic facts, using a generic list format, or tackling a really broad topic,
Yeah.
that's not AI slop anymore.
No, that's human slop.
It's the product of a human creative mind that has failed to leverage a genius-level system.
Exactly. It makes that whole debate about whether AI content is good enough totally irrelevant.
Because if a 190 IQ sister is offering you these bespoke, multi-layered, predictive content ideas a human expert might need months to even think of, anything less is just going to look like noise.
It's the digital equivalent of a hand-scrawled note taped next to a professionally published textbook. A textbook that anticipates your questions before you even know you have them.
This just creates a completely new competitive landscape. If your content isn't directed by a super intelligent system, it just won't be able to compete for attention against systems that are essentially genius minds operating at a massive scale.
Your ability to get views becomes directly tied to the intelligence behind your content.
Which, ultimately sounds like a good thing for the consumer, for the person watching or reading.
I think so. And while the disruption is going to be immense, the source material concludes that this era of both AI slop and human slop is ending pretty quickly. We're moving to a time when you, as a user, will be just amazed by the superior intelligence and utility of what you're consuming. It forces everyone to raise their game.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, as you're watching these changes over the next few years? The intelligence gap isn't just closing, it's reversing. And so fast that it forces this fundamental strategic shift in how digital content gets made.
It really does.
The metrics we've gone over today show this clear, measurable path to a world where content is directed by minds that are estimated to be smarter than geniuses like Einstein and Newton.
Indeed. And if these super intelligent AIs are about to take over the role of generating the most engaging, profitable, and complex ideas, the human role has to change. We're moving away from giving simple commands.
We have to get better at communicating with them.
Exactly. Which raises a final provocative question for you to think about. If the genius ideas now come from the AI, what is the single most valuable new skill we humans have to cultivate to communicate effectively to these genius systems? It's all about translating our complex needs into a language the digital genius can use to give us that superior content.
That was our deep dive into the dawn of digital genius and the shifting economics of content quality. We hope this analysis, built on these specific metrics and timelines, has given you a shortcut to being well informed on this incredible intelligence shift.